delivering a presentation doesn't have to be a terrifying experience. So today, I'm sharing my 4-step approach that'll get you calm, cool, and collected way before the spotlight's on you. And I'll share ways you can own the room even before your first words hit the mic. What's good, party people? It's your girl, Candia, your personal hype woman on a mission to help you show up and speak up anyway, despite dealing with fear, uncertainty, or self-doubt. So your girl is fresh off of delivering a keynote presentation. And after I shared my outfit deets on Instagram and the Facebook streets, there were a few people who asked me about how I prepare and what tips that I have about preparing for a big presentation. And so I said to myself, you know what, Mackenzie Conversations listeners could definitely benefit from the same information that I've shared with these folks over here on Instagram and Facebook. So I decided to share 4 key things that I do to not only prepare my content, but the routines and exercises that I do the morning of, which I believe are equally as important as preparing the content. Plus, I've turned this whole entire episode into a checklist for you moving forward. So don't forget to catch that free download in the show notes. So, first things first, focus on impact. Take the focus off you and put it on them being the audience. Typically, when I am invited to deliver a talk, like I delivered a few weeks ago, or even if a company reaches out to me and they request a series of leadership development workshops, I ask the client, who are these people beyond their role and their job description, and what are the challenges, changes, or conflicts they've experienced in the last 90 days? Knowing that information is a way that you can engage them right from the start. So for me, I have clients in healthcare, banking, and I also have clients in the nonprofit sector. So although the topics that I deliver are the same, I deliver talks on turning challenges into opportunities, having difficult conversations, presenting yourself with confidence, executive presence, all the things. So although I'm delivering those same types of topics, the audience needs are different. Some of the challenges as it relates to their particular industry are different. And so for me to engage them and keep their interest, I have to make sure that my stories are relatable to their current challenge, to their current conflict. I also have to make sure that some of the exercises and the scenarios that I share with them are relatable for them. For me, the Candia experience is more of a conversation, not a presentation. I approach my talks and even my workshops from a place of, we're just going to have a conversation about this specific problem or this approach that I'm sharing with you today. You see, when you focus on presenting or delivering training content, you put a lot of pressure on yourself to overload your presentation slides or even your scripts with a bunch of information that may be helpful for you, not them. And so I always tell people, take the pressure off of yourself, and you want to strive to make it more so of a conversation than a presentation. So one way to ensure you're making an impact is to shift your focus from yourself to your audience. Now that I've learned about the change, challenge, or conflict that they're experiencing at the moment, I get intentional by asking myself, okay, what is the story that I can share within the first 30 to 60 seconds of my conversation that would resonate with where they are, where they've been, or where they'd like to be? When you share a story or you share a piece of your background that resonates with people, it's a powerful way for them to relax a little bit and say, oh, okay, we're in the right hands here. Let's go have a conversation. Another way to let the audience understand that they're in the absolute right place, they're in the best hands right now, is to address the pink elephant in the room. So if you know that your audience is feeling frustrated with the number of changes, acknowledge that they're frustrated and overwhelmed. Adults don't want you to waste their time. One of the things that I've recognized is people value realness over perfection. Another way that I can make this experience impactful as well as conversational is that I can take this knowledge about this audience feeling frustrated and overwhelmed and turn that into a question. So I may say, how many of us are feeling overwhelmed and frustrated and we're burned out with where we are in today's society? And then I'll wait for the hands to go up and then I'll say, today it is my intention to give you some actionable things that you can do to make your lives easier. And so again, it is about making it a conversation. Another way you can make it a conversation is to ask them a question about an experience or a time period that they may be familiar with. So I may say, how many people have 10 years of experience in the room? How many people have less than 10 years of experience in the room? And based on how many people raise their hands, it's encouraging one, audience engagement, and then they're sitting at the edge of their seat waiting for you to connect the dots for them. Now, when you are practicing delivering your content, I am not a fan of trying to remember verbatim what I have to say or reading from the PowerPoint slides. And so what I like to do is if I'm using PowerPoint slides, I believe your slides should complement your presentation. They shouldn't be the focus of your presentation. And so when you have a lot of content on your slides, your audience spend an overwhelming amount of time trying to read your slides instead of trying to engage with you. So when you are practicing to deliver your content, instead of trying to memorize your slides, I like to include a few words on the slide. But then to practice my delivery, I use index cards and I write the theme of the slide on the card, and then I turn that theme into a question. So let me walk you through how this works. So for example, in a recent keynote that I delivered a few weeks ago, reframing for success, turning challenges into opportunities. So within that presentation, there's a 7-step process that I share to turn their challenges into opportunities. And one of the slides is called Recognize Your Triggers. And so instead of reading that slide verbatim and dumping a bunch of content on that slide, I turn it into a question by asking myself, Candia, what are triggers? Why is it important to recognize your triggers? And how can you recognize a trigger? So this approach to practicing your delivery does a few powerful things. One, it takes the pressure off memorization, allowing you to speak more naturally. It helps you to maintain a more conversational tone because it should feel more like a dialogue than a monologue. Also, when you think about making an unforgettable impact, I believe the success of your talk or presentation isn't really based on what happens during your presentation, but what you inspire them to do afterward. So to summarize my presentation, I like to give my audience a call to action, something that not only resonates for them in that moment, but I like to give them a call to action where they may say to themselves the following week, what is that question or what is that thing Candia told me to do? So when you get to the end of your presentation, instead of saying to summarize my key points or in conclusion, I may say, when you leave this room, if there are 3 things I'd like for you to do, it's this. Or if there are 3 things I'd like for you to know, feel, and do, it's this. Oh, and by the way, if you're still tuned in right now, I've got a special treat for you. I'm throwing open the virtual doors to my free live event, Unstoppable Confidence. And let me tell you, I am sharing my exact daily practices and strategies that have helped me and a whole bunch of my rockstar clients show up and speak up. You know those moments when fear, uncertainty, or self-doubt tries to take you off your game? Don't worry, your girl has got you. If you've been nodding along in this episode thinking, Candia, I need more of this in my life, then don't worry, I got you. It's completely free. It's live, which means you can ask Me Anything, and it's happening soon. Don't sleep on yourself, all right? I'm going to include that link in the show notes. Anywho, another powerful call to action is to give them a self-reflective question that informs their decisions as it relates to your topic and their actions moving forward. And so when I delivered the keynote a few weeks ago, I said, when you leave this room, there will come a time when you will be faced with conflict or change. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Stay ready. And the number one question that I want you to ask yourself in that moment is this. And that question was my call to action. One powerful question. Okay, so now my next tip is about creating magnetic energy, that intangible quality that draws people in, commands attention, and leaves a lasting impression. Because the reality is, content and scripts only get you so far. People buy into the energy of your presence before they buy into the power of your words. So the same energy you put into finding the right words to educate, empower, and persuade your audience is the same energy you need to put into practicing a confident posture, selecting your tone of voice, choosing when to smile, when to fall back, when to use gestures to enhance your content, and ultimately your body language speaks volumes before you utter a single word. And so when we think about how to harness that power, one, it's in your posture. Stand tall, shoulders back, chin slightly lifted. Imagine a string kind of pulling you up from the crown of your head, creating an air of confidence and command. Now, when it comes to using your tone of voice to your benefit, you want to modulate your tone of voice like an instrument. So your voice's pitch, tone, and volume, and your pace, you want to allow that to fluctuate to suit not only your audience, but your content, specific messages, and its purpose. So you want to let it rise at some moments, and I've mimicked this from Oprah, by the way. But you want to let it rise with excitement on certain key points, but then you want to use a more softer tone for some intimate insights. When I think about my strongest argument or messages, I really like to raise my voice a bit. So going back to my messages of, it's not a matter of if you make a mistake, it's a matter of when you make a mistake. It's not a matter of if you face a conflict, it's a matter of when you face a conflict, you stay ready. The way you stay ready is you go within. I'm allowing my voice to rise with conviction, to encourage, to empower, to stress to the people in that room that they are the secret sauce to turning their challenges into opportunities. And so your voice should dance with the emotions of your message. I also like to smile every now and then, okay? Not just with your mouth, but with your eyes. A genuine smile that crinkles just a little bit in the corner of your eyes. It can disarm an audience and create a sort of instant connection. And you want to use it strategically to warm up the room, to punctuate your positive points. So even if I am delivering a message and I see someone nodding and I may look at them and smile and I say, I see my friend back there smiling. With your gestures, you're nodding your head. Ideally, you want to let your hands also become your visual aid. So you can use expansive gestures where you are conveying some big ideas. Your gestures should paint pictures that complement your words at times. And again, we're making our presentation a conversation. And so if you're using your hands and movement, it sends the tone of this being a conversation more than a monologue. And also, I will say this, if you are delivering a big presentation in terms of a keynote, if it's possible to get access to the room that you are going to deliver your presentation in, I will say definitely take advantage of that. So when I deliver my keynote the day before, I gained access to the room and I was able to practice on stage, and there are parts of the stage that sometimes they have blocked off with tape. So it's important to get familiar with where you can walk and where they don't really want you to walk because people can't see you, or sometimes the lights shine too brightly in your eyes. And so that can minimize your anxiety as well. And especially, things are so high tech now. And so the last keynote that I delivered, I had a teleprompter, and the gentleman who was navigating the slides, I had the clicker thing, but he was also able to scroll down as he was following my words for key points that I was making so that we were moving along. And so I would highly recommend that even if you just have a big meeting, get familiar with your meeting space, because I do believe that sometimes when we're unfamiliar, it creates a level of anxiety and stress and all the things. And so I'm using that moment, going through the physical motions of how I like to walk around the stage. And I would say this, even if I'm preparing on Zoom, video conferencing software, I generally like to practice, even using gestures and tone of voice and all those same things. So even remotely or virtual presentations, I'm doing the same thing. It's just that I'm using a computer. Now let's switch gears to what you can do on the morning of the presentation. I wake up and the very first thing that I do is I hit my yoga mat and I start my day with a guided meditation. One of my favorite guided meditation called I Am Ready by Alexandra Love. I will include it in the show notes. And within that guided meditation, she walks you through some breathing techniques. She also shares some powerful affirmations. Affirmations are energy shifters and boosters. And so one of my favorite affirmations that she shares is, anything that comes through me goes through the filter of my preparedness. And I love that affirmation because my brain, on the day I have to deliver a talk, goes down the rabbit hole of what if syndrome. What if my slides don't display? What if someone asks me a question that I don't know, and all the things. And so it's important for me to do the work to minimize some of the anxiety that I'm feeling. Because here's the thing, I don't believe all anxiety is bad anxiety. Sometimes anxiety is just excitement. I believe it's good anxiety that you feel. You're doing something new. You're about to change the way people think, believe, or do something, so you can actually turn that energy into something that serves you. But anywho, that is the affirmation that helps me calm some of the anxiety that I'm having about things that I cannot control. I also do a series of yoga poses and stretches to remove any tension and just loosen up my shoulders. Make sure that I am releasing some of the kinks in my legs and my back and all the things. And at the same time, I'm visualizing myself on stage, and I'm practicing again my mannerisms and my hand gestures. And last, but definitely not least, I'm taking deep breaths. Deep breathing is a powerful technique for presentation preparation, because when you are preparing for a presentation, it's very common that you may go down that what if rabbit hole. What if this happens, or what if that happens? And so breathing is a way to center yourself into the present moment. And I firmly believe that when you change how you breathe, you can change how you feel. And so box breathing is also known as square breathing. It's a simple yet effective relaxation technique that can help you reduce your stress, give you improved focus, and it slows your heart rate down. And so when you do box breathing technique, essentially you're inhaling for a count of 4, holding your breath for a count of 4, exhaling for a count of 4, and then you're holding your breath for a count of 4 and repeating for, I would say, 3 to 5 minutes until you feel centered. Now, pro tip, sometimes I like to visualize drawing a box in my mind as I breathe, because this visualization can enhance my focus and make the technique even more engaging. And so you want to practice this breathing technique before you enter the presentation room or the stage. And I believe you can incorporate it into your regular preparation for a meeting. Make it a part of your routine to build a calming association with your presentation delivery. Remember, a calm mind leads to a confident delivery. Okay, so make box breathing a part of your routine. I like to tell my leaders to use it as a part of their pre-meeting prep. So when you are reviewing your notes, also get into a moment where you can practice your box breathing. Last but certainly not least, on the morning of, fuel your body with the right foods. So you want to choose mood boosting foods. I am a fan of a berry breakfast. Okay, strawberries, blackberries, and blueberries with some yogurt and bananas and all the things, because I know that berries have a mood boosting effect. Okay, and I also may have a protein, or I may have a protein smoothie. I'm a fan of those as well, throwing my berries there and making sure I have my vitamins and all the things. Now, if I'm delivering a presentation in the afternoon, I may have a light kale or spinach salad with some berries if I want to make it a little fancy, and nuts and a little vinaigrette and all the things, because the last thing that you want to be worried about is your stomach. You want to feel light and airy. And so I always recommend that you definitely stick to something light. And then you could eat up everything after the presentation like me, or make your way to the happy hour like me. But anywho, we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you. When you are preparing for your next presentation, okay, remember, it's important. Equally important to your slides and your content is your energy. Creating that energy is so very important. Owning the room. Oh, I forgot about that. Owning the room. One way that I own the room is I speak to people. If I'm doing a big talk or a presentation, I'm speaking to whoever I make eye contact with before I get on that stage, because it helps me to, one, build a connection with people. And that way, if I'm on stage and I start to recognize some of those people, I'm looking their way. Okay. And I'm a big fan of making people rise to the level of my energy. I'm setting the tone for how this presentation is going to go. So even on Zoom, if I'm delivering a presentation or even a meeting on Zoom and people begin to enter the Zoom room, I may say, "Hey, Tony, how are you?" Now, granted, I don't know Tony, but I'm going to invite Tony into Candia's optimal energy zone. Okay, so he can know what to expect. And again, making that connection with Tony keeps my anxiety down because I'm formulating these relationships at the start. And so when it's time to engage my audience with a question, I'm going to go back to Tony because I've already established some sort of rapport with him. All right, party people. Now I know some of y'all might be thinking, Candia, I've prepped till I was blue in the face before and I'm still nervous. And you know what? That's totally okay. Because here's the thing, preparation is key, but it's not a magic wand that'll make all your nerves disappear. And honestly, a little bit of that nervous energy can be a good thing. It means that you care. So the 4 steps that we've talked about today. 1, focus on impact. It's not about you, it's about them, your audience. What do they need? What are they struggling with? 2nd, make it a conversation. We're not here for a snooze fest monologue. Engage with your people, party people. 3rd, practice those delivery techniques. Play with your tone of voice and let your body language do some talking too. Even as I'm speaking on this podcast, y'all would laugh if you see how I'm moving my hands around and being all animated and all the things. Anywho, step number 4, this is the secret sauce. Create that magnetic energy. Own your presence from your posture to your tone. And don't forget about what you need to do before you hit that stage. Before you hit that conference room. I'm talking meditation, some yoga stretches, visualization, whatever centers you. And please, pretty please, fuel that body right. No one wants to hear your growling stomach throughout the presentation. Or it's not a growling stomach, it's a stomach that's hurting. But anywho, that's a story for another day. Remember, breathing is your superpower. When those what ifs start to creep in, you want to hit them with some box breathing techniques. Trust me, it works wonders. And listen, at the end of the day, the more you put yourself out there, the easier it will get. You're going to rock those meetings and presentations. It's all about practice and routine. So if you are ready to own your presence. Let's do it. Let's go. And a friendly reminder, if you found today's episode helpful, join me for my free live event, Unstoppable Confidence. I will include the link in the show notes. I appreciate y'all. Talk soon.